Based on the description provided, the porch meets the definition of a damp location according to the National Electrical Code. A damp location is a location not normally subject to complete saturation with water or other liquids, but likely to be exposed to moisture, condensation, or occasional splashing water or light rain. Receptacles in damp locations must have weatherproof covers to protect them from moisture and prevent electrical shock. The National Electrical Code requires ground fault circuit interrupter protection for outdoor receptacles as well as receptacles in wet or damp locations. However, there is an exception for receptacles that are not readily accessible from the outside. National Electrical Code 406.9b2 states that ground fault circuit interrupter protection is not required for receptacles that are not readily accessible to persons outdoors. In this case, the closest receptacle to the outdoor opening is 6 feet in, while the others are 10 feet or more from any openings. Therefore, the following applies. Receptacles 6 feet or more from the outdoor opening are not required to have ground fault circuit interrupter protection, in accordance with National Electrical Code 406.9b2. The receptacles 6 feet in from the outdoor opening may be required to have ground fault circuit interrupter protection if it is likely to be exposed to moisture, condensation, or splashing water, according to National Electrical Code 406.8a. The inspector is correct that weatherproof covers are required for all receptacles on the porch. However, ground fault circuit interrupter protection is not required for receptacles that are not readily accessible from the outside, that is, 6 feet or more from the outdoor opening. The inspector should reconsider their requirement for ground fault circuit interrupter protection on the receptacles that are 10 feet or more from any openings. Let's delve further into the specifics of receptacle installation in damp locations, focusing on the pertinent sections of the National Electrical Code to provide a comprehensive understanding. Firstly, the definition of a damp location is critical. As previously stated, it's a location protected from saturation but subject to moisture. This distinction is vital because it dictates the types of protection required for electrical components. Secondly, weatherproof covers are mandatory for receptacles in damp locations. These covers are designed to prevent moisture ingress, which can lead to short circuits, corrosion, and electrical shocks. There are two main types of weatherproof covers. One type is designed for use when the receptacle is not in use, while the other allows cords to be plugged in while maintaining weatherproof protection. The choice depends on the anticipated usage of the receptacle. Thirdly, ground fault circuit interrupter protection is a crucial safety measure in damp and wet locations. Ground fault circuit interrupters are designed to detect ground faults, which occur when electricity flows through an unintended path, such as through a person. Ground fault circuit interrupters quickly shut off the power, preventing serious injury or death. However, as noted earlier, the National Electrical Code provides an exception for receptacles that are not readily accessible from the outside. This exception acknowledges that receptacles located further inside a covered porch are less likely to be exposed to the same level of moisture as those closer to the exterior. National Electrical Code Section 406.9 outlines the requirements for ground fault circuit interrupter protection for receptacles installed in various locations. Subsection A generally mandates ground fault circuit interrupter protection for receptacles installed in damp or wet locations. However, subsection B provides exceptions to this rule. Specifically, 406.9b2 states that ground fault circuit interrupter protection is not required for receptacles that are not readily accessible to persons outdoors. The interpretation of readily accessible is key to applying this exception. While the National Electrical Code does not provide a specific definition of readily accessible in this context, it generally implies that the receptacle should be easily reached without requiring the use of tools or climbing over obstacles. In the case of the porch, receptacles located 10 feet or more from the opening would likely be considered not readily accessible, while the receptacle located 6 feet from the opening may or may not be, depending on the specific layout and potential for exposure to moisture. National Electrical Code Section 406.8 provides additional guidance on receptacle installations in damp and wet locations. Subsection A states that receptacles installed in damp locations must be protected from moisture. This protection can be achieved through the use of weatherproof covers, as well as other measures such as locating the receptacle in a protected area or using a listed weatherproof enclosure. The inspector's requirement for weatherproof covers is consistent with this provision. To further clarify the application of these rules, consider the following scenarios. Scenario 1: a receptacle is located directly next to an outdoor grill on the porch. In this case, ground fault circuit interrupter protection would likely be required even if the receptacle is more than 6 feet from the opening, due to the potential for splashing, water, and other moisture exposure. Scenario 2: a receptacle is located 12 feet from the opening and is used exclusively for plugging in holiday lights during the Christmas season. In this case, ground fault circuit interrupter protection may not be required, as the receptacle is not readily accessible and is not likely to be exposed to significant moisture. Scenario 3: a receptacle is located 5 feet from the opening and is frequently used to power tools. In this case, ground fault circuit interrupter protection would likely be required, as the receptacle is readily accessible and there is a higher risk of moisture exposure. It's important to note that the local electrical inspector has the final say in interpreting and enforcing the National Electrical Code. If there is disagreement regarding the application of these rules, it's best to discuss the matter with the inspector and provide supporting documentation, such as photos or diagrams of the porch layout. In conclusion, while weatherproof covers are generally required for all receptacles on a covered porch, ground fault circuit interrupter protection may not be required for those receptacles that are not readily accessible from the outside. Specific requirements will depend on the location of the receptacles, their potential for exposure to moisture, and the interpretation of the local electrical inspector. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector to ensure compliance with the National Electrical Code and local regulations. The Electrical Code aims to protect people and property from hazards arising from the use of electricity. Compliance with these codes ensures a safe electrical installation. For the porch receptacle, consider the following aspects during installation. Firstly, ensure all wiring is properly grounded. Grounding provides a low impedance path for fault current, helping to prevent electrical shock. Secondly, use appropriately sized conductors for the intended load. Undersized conductors can overheat, leading to installation damage and potentially causing a fire. Thirdly, properly seal all conduit and fittings to prevent moisture from entering the electrical system. Moisture can corrode conductors and other components, leading to malfunctions and safety hazards. Fourthly, use only listed or certified electrical components. These components have been tested and evaluated to meet safety standards. Fifthly, install ground fault circuit interrupters in accordance with the National Electrical Code and local regulations. Ground fault circuit interrupters provide essential protection against electrical shock. Sixthly, install weatherproof covers on all outdoor receptacles. Weatherproof covers protect receptacles from moisture and other environmental factors. Seventhly, regularly inspect the electrical system for any signs of damage or wear. Promptly repair any issues to prevent potential hazards. Eighthly, use a qualified electrician for all electrical work. A qualified electrician has the knowledge and experience to safely and correctly install and maintain electrical systems. Ninthly, follow all applicable codes and regulations. Electrical codes are designed to protect people and property from electrical hazards. Tenthly, use appropriate strain relief for cords plugged into outdoor receptacles. Strain relief prevents stress on the cord connections, reducing the risk of damage or disconnections. Moreover, consider the environmental factors that might affect the porch receptacles. Temperature fluctuations can cause condensation inside electrical boxes, so ensure proper sealing. Sunlight exposure can degrade plastic components, so use UV-resistant materials where appropriate. Wind-driven rain can penetrate even covered areas, so choose weatherproof covers that provide adequate protection. Salt air in coastal areas can accelerate corrosion, so use corrosion-resistant materials for all exposed components. Insect infestations can damage wiring and other components, so seal all openings to prevent entry. Rodents can also damage wiring, so protect cables with conduit or other physical barriers. Consider also the placement of the receptacles in relation to other features of the porch. Avoid placing receptacles near sources of water, such as faucets or downspouts. Position receptacles so that cords do not create tripping hazards. Ensure that receptacles are easily accessible for their intended use. Consider the aesthetic appearance of the receptacles and covers. Choose colors and styles that complement the porch design. Think about the long-term maintenance requirements of the receptacles and covers. Choose durable materials that will withstand the elements and require minimal upkeep. Also, be aware of the specific requirements of the local utility company. Some utility companies have specific rules regarding outdoor receptacles and grounding. Contact the utility company for information on their requirements. Consider the use of tamper-resistant receptacles, especially in areas where children may be present. Tamper-resistant receptacles have internal shutters that prevent objects from being inserted into the slots. Think about the use of arc fault circuit interrupters, which provide protection against arc faults, a common cause of electrical fires. Arc fault circuit interrupters can detect dangerous arcing conditions and shut off the power before a fire can start. Explore the use of smart receptacles, which can be controlled remotely and provide energy monitoring capabilities. Smart receptacles can be used to turn lights on and off, set timers, and track energy usage. They can be controlled with a smartphone or other device. Consider the use of recessed receptacles, which are installed flush with the wall surface. Recessed receptacles provide a clean, modern look and can help to protect cords from damage. Think about the use of multi-outlet receptacles, which provide multiple outlets in a single location. Multi-outlet receptacles can be useful for powering multiple devices in a small area. Explore the use of USB receptacles, which provide USB ports for charging mobile devices. USB receptacles can eliminate the need for bulky chargers and adapters. In conclusion, installing receptacles on a porch requires careful consideration of the National Electrical Code, local regulations, and environmental factors. By following these guidelines, one can ensure a safe and reliable electrical installation.